This here is another viewer's broken gaming PC, and let me tell you, this thing has been through a lot, apparently. The story goes, this owner purchased this PC secondhand, so from somebody else who built it a long time ago, hence the age of some of the hardware you're seeing in the spec sheet. It's not a huge deal, and honestly, this would make for a pretty decent entry-level gaming PC today if you could find these parts for the right price. But just bear in mind that this system was actually built several years ago, and since the time the owner bought it, he's had issues. In fact, issues that were so extreme that he tried reaching back out to the original seller on Facebook Marketplace, who decided to delete his entire account. Or maybe it was deleted by Facebook for fraud or something. Who knows? In a desperate attempt, the owner dropped the system off at a PC repair shop in the Tampa, Florida area. And apparently, this is where things get even more dicey. Now, I'm using the word apparently a lot, and it's intentional because a lot of this is just hearsay. This is what the owner is telling me happened, and I, of course, can't verify any of it. So for legal reasons, I'm going to keep using that word. I hope you don't mind. So the tech, long story short, concluded, according to the owner, that the components in this PC were actually frying components in his own test bed. Now, apparently, if it turns on at all, we'd be lucky, and if it does, it probably won't stay on for long. In fact, he's even said that there are intermittent issues with the display out. Sometimes you don't even get any picture out at all. There's no post. I'm kind of just sharing with you stuff that he shared with me. Of course, in the description field you're seeing here, which has been condensed, by the way. I've taken a few things out, especially like more personal things, some personal identifiers, and then also on account of the discussion that I've had with him in person. This is a very complex story. It is a shame that the owner's out, again, over $100 for a repair that didn't actually happen. Thankfully, though, it is in our possession now, and I'm fairly confident we can get to the bottom of whatever's wrong here. And I mean, come on, at the very least, this should be an entertaining one. If I do fail to get the system fixed, it's on camera, and you can learn from my mistakes, which is another thing I love about this playlist. I hope you will stay with me. This is the Comet 5G from GeoLinet, the world's first 5G RedCap Wi-Fi 6 remote KVM. Now that's a serious handful. A KVM switch, short for keyboard, video, and mouse, controls a host of computers and servers all from the same location. This makes troubleshooting easy and accessible from anywhere with a network connection. Built-in Wi-Fi 6 frees up cabling, and 5G RedCap allows for remote control from virtually anywhere. Troubleshoot troublesome computers at the BIOS level, even in places where the local network is down or restricted. Setup is super easy, control is seamless, and failovers ensure peace of mind. It's the perfect companion for tinkerers and professionals alike. Learn more about the Comet 5G from GeoLinet by clicking the sponsor link below, where you can be among the first to receive exclusive launch discounts. Hello there, and welcome to Fix or Flop, a playlist where we attempt to fix broken gaming PCs like this one for free. We don't charge for labor or replacement hardware, and that's thanks to your viewership. Literally, if you're using an ad blocker, if you're skipping through ads, whatever, it doesn't matter. The fact is, you are clicking on these videos, and that drives everything you see here. So thank you so much for that continued support. I'm very hopeful that we can get this one back up and running, but at the very least, you'll learn a thing or two. Maybe you can be your own repair specialist. That would, trust me, that would go a long way. I have learned so much over the past 7 seasons, and I'm absolutely stunned by how many different issues we've run into. This one, I mean, this is a basket case. I have no idea where to start. Maybe we have a faulty power supply, faulty motherboard, the graphics card could be dead or going out. You just never know with these. One of the things I noticed right away when I saw this rig in the parking lot, I didn't bring it up to the owner because it's a quick fix, the fact that these 2 DIMMs are actually in the wrong slots. Now this shouldn't affect performance long term or anything. In fact, some boards won't even let you know that these DIMMs are in the wrong slots, but for just good practice, we're gonna have to move these over 1 slot a piece. You'll actually see at the top of this board, it denotes that slots A2 and B2 be populated first. As it stands, these are in slots A1 and B1. In fact, why don't we quickly swap these over? Typically, I like to power a system on first and get a baseline before we make any alterations, but I think the issues with this rig go far beyond just a couple of mismatched DIMMs. So there we go. These are fully seated. They shouldn't be a problem anymore, unless one or both are dead. Other quick sanity checks before we get started. The 8+6 pin combo here, these are extensions. These are at least connected on the graphics card side. Same for the 24 pin above it. And the 8-pin EPS is also fully seated. Again, we just checked RAM. His graphics card is also fully seated. It looks like most of his fan cables are connected. I can't see front I/O from here. It's just behind this little 120 mil fan mounted atop the basement, but I'm going to assume those are okay for now. So basic checks out of the way. Let's try powering this thing on, and we'll see what happens. Portable monitor is on standby just in case we get a picture out again. I'm not sure what to expect here, so let's just go for it and document what happens. Document what happens. Oh, this thing is cooked. She's not powering on at all. This is bad. Uh-oh. All right, yeah, the power supply is on. It's plugged in. I do see a light at the back of the board around the LAN port. And that's about it. It's the only sign of life I see. Okay, we do have another light at the bottom of the board near front panel. Yeah, that's about it. Okay. Wow, that's bad. Now let's try manually jumping so we can bypass the front panel, just in the off chance that works. Unfortunately, I've had to move this basement fan out of the way to even access the front panel here, and it looks like the pins we've got for the power switch are correct. All right, well, that's probably not our issue then. So what happens when I jump the power pins now? Nothing. Now, a whole lot of nothing. Okay, let's keep going. I'm not gonna cut this clip up into multiple. I'm just gonna roll with it as is. Let's power off, and I'm going to remove DRAM. I don't think this is a DRAM problem. I've never seen DRAM keep a system from powering on, if I recall. Power back on. Let's try again. Nothing. Okay. Let's try one more thing. I'm going to do a quick graphics card removal. I have to go back and look. I'm not sure if this is an F SKU or not. I'm not really worried about picture out at this point. I just want power of some kind. So I'm going to just remove the card, power back on, and try once more. Still nothing. Alrighty. Well, we have a power problem. It would be crazy of us not to check the power supply, right? What on earth do we have going on back here? So we have extensions, so we'll probably want to rule those out as well. Just another potential failure point, although uncommon. Again, it's a modular power supply, so we'll check all of his connections on the unit side. I will say though, just right out of the gate, I don't see anything obvious. Everything from his 24 pin on the extension side to the power supply side, all of it looks good, which tells me that if we do have a power supply issue, it's going to be internal to the enclosure itself, which we can rule out with our inline tester. Here we go then, nothing complicated going on. We're just going to be passing power through this to see if any of our voltages, ripples, anything like that is out of whack. So here we go, that's powered on. If we had an issue, we'd be hearing beeps right now. We aren't hearing any, so it looks like this power supply is fine. Uh-oh. Probably looking at either a motherboard or a CPU failure. And as you can see, same goes for our extensions. I wanted to just be sure that these were not the issue, so I've run these through the original unit into the inline tester. Still no beeping, everything looks a-okay. And just one other quick sanity check before diving any deeper. I only have the motherboard, CPU, and power supply connected. That's it. I don't even have DRAM connected. Now, of course, you're not gonna get a post without system RAM, but you should still get a power on scenario. Like you should still see your fans turn on, power should be distributed through the motherboard, and if we don't see any of that, then we most certainly have either a dead CPU or a dead motherboard. Maybe a socket problem. This is an LGA socket again that we're dealing with, so you just never know. Let's see what happens. Yep, nothing. Nothing at all. I've even gone so far as to remove the NVMe drive attached directly to his motherboard. So at this point, literally nothing is touching the board or the CPU apart from the power supply. And since we've already ruled out the power supply as a culprit, at least via the inline tester, I only see this as being a motherboard or CPU issue. Like there are no storage drives attached. His graphics card is fully removed. Again, his system RAM is detached. At the very least, we should get a system that powers on. Of course, no post, but just give me a sign of life, will you? Apart from a couple of LEDs, there's no way in its current state to get this board to fire up, which means we have to take the platform out. This will give us a chance to inspect the socket, the CPU itself. Maybe we have an instance of like too much thermal paste being used so that we're not getting proper contact. We have bent or missing pins. We've seen it before here. One thing that randomly just came to mind, maybe we should check the rear I/O here to see if we have anything shorted internally, especially these USB Type A ports. These are larger power pins and data pins. If those get crossed or shorted, then you could have a pretty rough time. Now, I so far don't see any signs of abuse back here. Now we do have, you notice this one light right here next to the Ethernet port illuminated. That's been on since the beginning, but again, that and only one other LED at the front of the board near front I/O has ever been lit. These are the only two signs of life that I've ever seen from this system, which is pretty wild. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with these ports. Even HDMI, DisplayPort, those all look good. Alrighty, she's coming out. Oh, I just love it when cases leave absolutely no clearance between their rear exhaust fan and motherboard. Okay, come on, nice and easy. I'm trying to keep everything in here. Save the board, of course. And there's just not a lot of room in here. This is a pretty tight fit. Oh my gosh. I can barely clear the cooler tubes. There we go. I don't want to scratch anything, obviously. Right, let's do a quick visual inspection, shall we? Now we'll get to the CPU and the socket in a moment. We've already inspected the rear I/O, so we're not worried about anything back there, at least from what we can see. Elsewhere, I don't see any burn marks. I don't see anything obvious that's like lobbed off of the board like we saw in the last episode. Most of this stuff looks to be in pretty good shape. It's also fairly clean as well, which I don't know, could be good news, could be bad news, not totally sure yet. Also, let's quickly check the voltage of this CMOS battery. Now, dead one of these shouldn't keep a system from powering on at all. This is an older board though, I just want to play it safe. We'll see what happens. So it looks like just a touch over 3 volts. This is a bit on the low side, probably due for a replacement. But again, if we swap this for a 3.2, 3.3 volt CR2032, it's again not likely to change too much. It's slipping. It's slipping out of my prongs there. Yeah, just a tad on the low side. By the way, the backside of this board also looks extremely clean. Nothing missing from what I can see, nothing broken off. And then in the case of the case, I'm full of jokes today, the standoffs are all in the correct positions. So we don't have any standoffs in places we shouldn't, where we could have a potential short. We have seen that before in this playlist as well. So let's get straight into the meat, shall we? This CPU has got to come out. We need to see underneath this, check the socket, visually inspect for any damage. This again is a Core i7 9700K. It's not an F SKU. I'm not even sure if they had F SKUs in the 9000 series. I think they did, but this should have integrated graphics, so we could test this rig, assuming the CPU is okay, without a discrete card. But the big question, what will we find underneath the chip? This could be good news or bad news, like I said earlier. At first glance, this looks pretty dang good. I could be blind, but this looks like a fairly immaculate socket. I don't see anything missing. I don't see anything bent. So yeah, honestly, I was kind of hoping that we'd see some bent pins we could quickly fix and then get this all back up and running. Unfortunately, it's not going to be that easy. And as for the chip itself, no issues here either. Everything's super clean, no run over thermal paste or anything. I don't see any dislodged SMDs. It's, yeah, it's all looking a little too good. I thought we'd see something obvious by this point. Now, it just so happens, and this surprises me, I have an Intel Core i5 9400 on hand. I don't know why I still have 9th gens. In fact, I actually have another one. This is an Intel Confidential. It's like an engineering sample that I must have been sent several years ago, and I've just held on to it. I know these aren't exact replacements. If his CPU is in fact dead, then this is a bit of a downgrade, but it's not going to cost him anything at all. It'll get him back up and running, and if he wants, he could always take this back out of his rig, sell it, and then, buy another i7 or something down the line. My goal is just to fix the rig, get it up and running. If I can, I'll do a like-for-like swap or a small upgrade. I just unfortunately don't have any other 9th gen CPU laying around. So let's give my 9400 a shot. In the original board, we could be up and running soon. I don't know, or we end up having to buy a replacement board. I definitely don't have another one of these to swap in. Now I know this looks super jank, because it is. I wanted to keep the power supply in here because again, I don't see a reason to swap that out at this point. I've got his original board wired up with my replacement CPU and his original DDR4. Cash? Cash? Kitty cat's trying to move the tripod. No. Good boy. Okay, let's just give it a go. Let's make sure that it's actually on. Okay, board's lit up. Ooh. I heard the power supply, it turned on this time. Let's see if the CPU gets warm. That would be a great sign. You know, I should also, I guess we could try for a post if the CPU doesn't get too hot too fast. Let me go ahead and reset it. It is warming up slightly. Okay, so we've reset it there. Is it warming up? I don't know, I can't tell. If it is warming up, it's doing so quite slowly. But we might be in for a bit of a surprise here. Come on. Yeah, it's not getting super hot. And that tells me just about everything I need to know about what's going on here. I think he has a pair of bad components. I think his motherboard and his CPU are both defective based on what I'm seeing so far. We could try with a discrete card. I don't think it's going to make a difference though. Because if it was just a CPU problem, then the swap should fix things and we should get a post. We should get a picture out. But if it's only getting slightly warm and we're still not getting a post, then we still have another problem. We've solved one thing which has led to another issue, which is again power distribution of some kind. I can't imagine that the same board would exhibit two completely different symptoms for two like CPUs in the same generation. That would be pretty bizarre. I don't think we really have a choice. We're gonna have to swap boards. I'll give it one more go with like a GT 1030. We'll just see what happens. I'm also gonna try with the known working stick of RAM from my own stash just to rule out this potential variable. Again, I think we're dealing with multiple issues at this point, so every bit counts. I'll throw in my own Corsair Vengeance LPX DIMM. And then for video out to bypass integrated graphics, we'll toss in my trusty GT 1030. Again, I know, super jank, but it's what we have to do in this situation here. This is it. It's for all the marbles. If this doesn't work, it's a guaranteed board swap. All right, power's on. Oh, we have a pair of, I didn't even see the debug LEDs before. I don't know how I didn't notice that. Okay, so they just cycled through CPU and DRAM. It just reset itself. That's weird. Okay, it's on the DRAM LED again. Again, I think that's going to pass because I know my DIMM works. The VJ light is on. Are we going to get a post? There's a post. Green boot light is illuminated. That is, wow. Yeah, and the chip is hotter now. Don't tell me we have another defective kit of RAM. No frickin' way. Wait a minute. I was trying to replicate this so I could show you the debug LEDs at the top. And now it's not powering on. Now it's doing exactly the same thing it did with the other CPU. Those are the correct pins to jump. Same ones I just did. But it's not wanting to play ball now. What on earth? What could be causing that? Yeah. I'm jumping them all right. Nothing's happening. I've power cycled several times. I have no clue what's going on. That is bizarre. Maybe the power supply had some sort of protection kick in. I don't really know how to explain this. I'm just gonna bypass it with one of my known working ones, the same nitro unit that I've used in several episodes. Let's see if we can get it power on now. Nope. Still nothing. Did it just kill my CPU too? Like, is my CPU shot now? I don't know how else to explain it. Why else would this be happening? It would work once, maybe twice, and then get back to a point where... Yes, buddy, yes. I know. You're as confused as I am, aren't you? I just don't know what's going on. I think we're going to have to swap boards. We tried, ladies and gentlemen. It's coming down to the wire now.
Meanwhile,
I got lucky and found a Z-series chipset board with a CPU and a stick of DDR4, which should come in handy for troubleshooting later for around $100. Only problem is it would of course take a few days to arrive, as is typical with eBay. So in the meantime, I decided to test other vital components in his system just to make sure that when isolated from the rest of his build, that they worked fine. And unfortunately, we found some bad news. What stayed in the back of my head this entire time was memory. If we have a dead RAM stick or two, that's gonna cost a pretty penny to repair. And this is odd because typically I'm thinking of the graphics card in this light, right? That's usually one of the more expensive things in a computer. Thankfully though, these DIMMs seemed fine and we got repeatable posts. However, this was not the case for his graphics card. His RTX 2070 Super would not post with either of my test benches, and you're only seeing one running here, and you'll notice that one of the fans is actually spinning most of the time, and we don't get a post. It does seem like the graphics card is getting some power, but it's probably signaling to us that there's a bigger issue at play here. And unfortunately, I don't have the tooling nor the experience to diagnose at a board level what could be wrong with this. I mean, we could have a partially deballed chip, the GPU itself could be fried, we could have a dead memory chip, or something even more convoluted than that. So I tend to just end up giving these back to their owners if I can't replace myself. Since we've already bought a board and we're not entirely sure if this will even fix things, I can't commit, unfortunately, to replacing this as well. The owner was informed, and while he was disappointed, he was at least happy that he knew what else was wrong with his rig and where he could allocate budget in the future. And again, I'm not joking when I say more than one platform was used to verify that this card was dead. The one that you're seeing in this B-roll, of course, is the one I also used for DRAM. I knew that it worked. We tested it with known working components beforehand, but this card did the exact same thing. With both test benches I used, this outermost fan would just spin into oblivion, like at max RPM, and then this one may turn on in the beginning, and then it usually just stops. So, one fan's just going crazy, the other one's just chilling. That's not right, that's already a bad sign, and we get no picture out, no matter what I try to do with this. You can't win them all. At least, again, we know what else is wrong. Now this is that replacement platform we ordered on eBay. It took about a week to get here, unfortunately, and this is one of the reasons why with older stuff, I tend to throw out pretty heavy disclaimers for folks who drop their systems off. Hey, if this happens to be a board or a CPU that I don't have on hand, because again, it is older, I probably will have to order something on eBay, and that could add a few days to the repair time. Typically, I can get these up and running within a few days, but yeah, this one's been a week, and while this does come with several components, again, the CPU and the RAM, which are just nice extras, the motherboard is the only thing that I really want to try to migrate over. But before we do that, one important step in this whole troubleshooting process, and I've missed this before, which is why I know better now, is to verify that everything here works independent of whatever the owner has running in his system. We want to make sure that there's nothing in the owner's rig, firstly, that could kill anything here, and if it did, I wouldn't really be able to know if it was because of those components or if these just arrived dead to begin with. So verifying that these work is again, it's so important. Please make sure that you test these independently. That's exactly what we're gonna do here with, we got a trusty GT1030, which has really been putting in some mileage lately, and a portable monitor as well as our Nightjar power supply. It is a messy setup, yes, but it should tell us everything we need to know about this replacement. Here we go, including the CPU and RAM that came with it, mind you. All right, so we have LEDs already lit with the power supply just turned on. That's great. We're gonna go ahead and jump the power pins here, which I believe, this is a weird JFP header. Here we go. All right, so it's powered on. Just power cycled. Looks like, oh yeah, there, great. Okay, so there's our post. So we can be confident that once we replace the owner's motherboard, which is, we believe, pretty hostile at this point, with this one, that it should remove those problems completely because we verified this works, right? And that's making another assumption that his board is really the only thing wrong at this point, and that neither my CPU nor his is actually dead. Although I have a feeling that may well be the case. You know, the cool thing too, we can actually reuse this stock Intel cooler, which is normally pretty jank. I don't recommend most folks run these unless you're, using like a super low TDP cooler. But we can use this for testing, no problem. I think I'm gonna drop in the owner's original CPU first. I just don't want any of those components anywhere near his original board anymore. So we go out with the old. This also gives us a quick chance to verify that the socket is good. Not that I was expecting it not to be, since it already posted with the other chip. We'll gently drop the owner's 9700K in and cross everything we got. There is a lot riding on this. I'm hoping that we get a post. This will be the first time with his CPU that we've been able to get something on screen. So let's give it a shot. Here we go. Power on. Fan spin. I mean, that's already we're already in a better situation than we were with the other board. So that's good. Let's see, the debug LEDs, I know you can't see them from there, that's why I'm kind of walking you through them. Have cycled through CPU and DRAM a couple times, and then the system's reset. They did the exact same thing with the CPU that came with this board as well. Back to DRAM. It's holding on DRAM. Now we're on VGA. We should get a post. Yeah, the boot light's on. There we go. Boot light's on, and we've got picture out. Oh, all right. We're getting there, slowly but surely. This is a bit bittersweet, admittedly, because again, his graphics card really doesn't want to play ball, and that really sucks because this is not cheap. I mean, it's not as expensive as it used to be, especially in the used market, but I really hate when I can't just get a system back up and running fully for an owner. Unfortunately, I just don't have a ton of graphics cards that I can spare for stuff like this, and so I have to be sparing about what I do end up replacing. But the good news is his CPU, which was going to be a bit harder to get, is actually swapped in, and now what I want to do is start piecemealing additional components from his rig into here. So we're going to swap both of his DIMMs into the slots on this board, make sure that that works, and then we're going to swap in his storage drives and sort of just like, again, iterate slowly but surely to be confident that this swap is going to give us a stable system in the end. And I just noticed that original DIMM was actually in the wrong slots. We're going to do A2 and B2 and be very careful with these installs. Actually, I always make this mistake. I don't know why Corsair Vengeance LPX DIMMs have the stickers facing outside, which to me makes no sense because you can see this from the right side a bit easier, but it's always backwards. So there we go. Just check the notch if you're curious. I just wish they had done it upside down. And here's DIMM number 2. The system's definitely going to power cycle a few times now that we've replaced memory, I'm sure, to train it. So we'll see a black screen for a few seconds. I just want to let the camera roll. Again, this is stuff I would normally cut out, but I want you to see everything I'm seeing. I think that's super important, especially if you're going through something similar yourself. I don't recall Z390 taking this long to boot up after hardware swaps, but I could be mistaken. Again, it's been several years since I've touched this platform. I think we're going to see, yep, okay, great. So we've got our post again. And we're just going to check on the next splash page. We'll make sure, yep, all 16 gigs, so that's 8 gigs per DIMM, is detected. We still see the 9700K. I think we're good to move forward. We've now got his M.2 situated. Let's try that again, this time with the card installed. I actually think we could just run off of integrated graphics for these tests, but the fact that we have a discrete card installed as well is kind of just adding more to the fact that I think this swap is going to serve us well. And for some reason, it always reboots. It always reboots at least once. It's not the end of the world. It's a much better position than we were in before. But it might just be board related or something. Not totally sure there. I'll be sure to give the owner a heads up. So it looks like we're hanging on DRAM. Now we're to VGA, so we should get a post any second. There we go. So right now, things are working out great. The next thing I want to do is introduce his power supply, which again seemed fine in our inline tester, but we won't really know for sure how it handles even a minor load until it's connected to something. And at this point, I don't really have much to worry about, but you just never know with power supplies. I mean, some I'm sure could make the argument at this point, Greg, you should just replace it anyway, because you never really know. But I mean, at that point, you could really extend that to any system that we ever work on, and I just can't keep shelling out, power supplies left and right. I really need to see some hard evidence that the unit is either dying or dead already to justify a replacement, just because we go through so many of these. So we're gonna power this back off for like the 4th time and introduce that unit. It's actually still in his original case, which is why things are set up the way they are. And if you recall, we've tested with and without the extension, so we know that these are not the culprit, at least according to our inline tester. So let's swap over the power cable and give it a quick whirl. I've got cables all over the place here. Let's just connect it, flip the switch on, and hope that this still works. Okay, it powered on and powered off right away. That tracks with how this thing tends to behave. We've got the DRM light on currently. It's reset once, back to DRAM. We should get a post now. Okay, VGA light's on. Come on, yes, okay. Oh, I totally was not worried about this one at all. I had unshakable faith in this power supply. Okay. All right, let's move on. We need to get this all into his rig again, and we'll reconnect his AIO. I've just about got everything rewired. Just need to connect the AIO. And of course, can't forget things like our 24 pin. Just like that, I do believe we are ready to go. I am, of course, a bit bothered by the fact that we don't have a working graphics card to throw in here. Again, that is just one of the consequences of having multiple issues in an environment where I don't charge for anything. Again, I have to be a bit choosy. It's gonna upset some people, I'm sure, online. Oh, Greg, you should have given them a graphics card. You get graphics cards all the time for free. That's not the case at all. I actually have to buy about 90 to 95% of the graphics cards we use in this playlist. That's just the reality of it. I'm not sure why. Those have always been one of the toughest things to get a hold of, and now that's also the case for DRAM, so it's getting a bit tougher to keep this going. That said, everything else that I've connected should function properly. Based on all of our initial testing, the troubleshooting we've gone through in this one, and I know this video is probably only about 20 or 30 minutes long, but this has been several days in the works. I am ready for a post. This CPU should have integrated graphics, which is why this HDMI cable, for the time being at least, is going to be connected directly to the back of the motherboard, which you shouldn't do if you do have a discrete card. A lot of folks make that mistake the first time building. Pretty sure I did as well, so don't be ashamed of that. Power supply is on. We're just gonna give it a whirl. We see some lights, that's a good start. And well, it looks like right away I've got a couple of fans that aren't lighting up. They're spinning, so that's the more important thing. Probably just a quick connection or two to take care of. I have to take the right side panel off again. In this case, I think it's the Cylon is what it's called from AeroCool. It's so inefficient. It's a very cheap case, and as such, there's just very little in the way of wiggle room for cables and things, especially with extensions. So that's gonna be fun. I'll probably take care of that off camera. I just want to post. That's what I'm most concerned about here. It would go a long way, and there it is. That is our splash page for ASUS. I am pretty sure we're gonna have to pull the keyboard out. Yeah, so I'm gonna see if we can load into Windows again. Assuming BitLocker and that's enabled, we should be able to slide straight into the operating system, which will for sure give us the green light to return this to the owner. I'll be right back. Just gonna set this here out of frame and click F1. This should throw us into the BIOS. And from here we can configure a lot of different stuff. You can see this one here is for his AIO. A few other fans are running at max speed. I'm not sure why. Those don't appear to be tied to the motherboard, so they might be controlled by some third-party software or box that I wasn't aware of. Again, not a huge deal right now. I'm gonna go ahead and just restart and see if now it'll try kicking us into Windows. And if you're curious, again, this board does have those debug LEDs, which came in super handy. I wanted to make sure that the replacement board that we had also came with these because, again, it goes a long way for troubleshooting. Not always super accurate, but it certainly helped in our case. And I did throw us right back into the BIOS, which is usually an indication that it's not able to detect an operating system partition on any drive connected. And again, we only have one. It's a 1 terabyte Samsung 980. Now when I try to click, you can see boot menu, F8, nothing comes up. I don't think it sees a partition because I don't believe Windows is actually installed on here. I'm gonna confirm that with the owner. So he can install whatever operating system he wants later. For now though, the fact that it does consistently reboot into the BIOS is, I think, a great sign. And again, it's a much better situation than we were in at the start of this video. Aha, it looks like we found our RGB fan issue. So I'm not sure if the owner did this or the repair shop, wherever this PC was before this. It looks like 2 of these fans are actually kind of wired in a loop. And that's not going to do you any good. So the RGB needs power and stuff. It's got to run into either controller or the board. Now the one fan that did light up, that's this one. This one actually is running to the board. You can see we've got it open-ended on this side. So what we're going to do is actually take one of these out of the loop. PC's a little dusty. And then we're going to connect that here. I know it seems a bit counterintuitive, like to have an open-ended connection, but for RGB, that's actually what you want. Now, all 3 of these fans should be in sync and wired directly to the board. Also, yes, I'm not going to hide this from you, the fact that our replacement board did not come with a rear IO shield. I hate the fact that so many used boards on eBay do not ship with their IO shields. Like, what on earth happens to them? Do people just like sell them separately? I really wanted this one because, again, it came with an extra CPU and a kit of RAM that I could use for additional testing. And so I think it's a small price to pay. I know it doesn't look fantastic. You'd always like 3D print something or whatever, but I don't think the owner's going to complain too much because, again, we're in a much better situation than we were earlier. The question now is, will these fans light up in unison? Ah, look at that. See, simple fix, just problematic wiring. That was super easy to take care of, and it just fires up without issue now. I don't see any problems. The cooler fan is churning, not very strongly. You might need to adjust that a bit. But our temperatures also look good in the BIOS. So if you're curious about those, again, we're around 30°C. By the time this loop equalizes, it'll probably be a bit higher, but I don't see anything alarming in terms of the pump or clogging. This is an older Corsair AIO, but you can tell it was treated properly from the factory. Beyond this, so far at least, there isn't much else I can really do. I have reached out to the owner again about the Windows question. I'm not seeing it on this one drive. There is a SATA data cable connected. You probably noticed that, but there's no drive connected to it on the other side. It didn't come with anything else, no 2.5-inch or 3.5-inch drive. So I can only work with what I have here, and from what I can see, Windows is not installed. I don't want to touch it, however, in case there are sensitive files on it, just unrelated to, again, a Windows bootable partition. And so for the time being, I'm going to leave it as is. This is a radical difference, a radical change from where we started. A rig that didn't even want to fire up before with the old motherboard has mostly been rectified with a replacement Z390 chipset from ASUS. The only other caveat to this, obviously, is the fact that his graphics card is also not playing ball with any system it attaches to. And I'm gonna have to, just return it to him and let him know, hey, if you plan on trying to use this again, you're probably gonna have to send it out to a card repair specialist, someone that's more adept in the board repair stuff. And I'm not. I'm not gonna pretend to be. I don't wanna risk further damage as well. I'll defer to the experts for something like that. Super important for anyone that works on anything, know your limits, know what you don't know. The more you learn about something, you tend to realize that there's a lot more you don't know about something. It never hurts to defer to others who are, tried and true in their fields. It's a really, I think, important discipline to have in the troubleshooting space, whether it be with PCs or cars or anything else. There's just stuff I just don't know how to do. Could I learn how to do it? Sure, but in the time it's gonna take to figure that out, the owner's gonna be without his system for weeks. I'd rather just give it to him as is so he can at least use it to some extent. He's not going to be able to game heavily with integrated graphics from a 9700K, but he can use Windows, surf the web, and the like. And I think that for what we've been through, this is a job well done. Thank you so much for your continued support. If you enjoyed this one, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you have not already. And remember that if you or someone you know has a broken PC that you'd like a chance to have fixed for free, you can click that form linked in the description and you can tell us all about it. We'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. My name is Greg. Thanks for learning with me.